everyone, and welcome to my very first inspirational video. So in this video I am going to work on an inspirational piece of art and you can follow along. So it's going to be like 3 fun exercises which hopefully inspires you to get creative. And as we're very close to the new year, I thought that it would be fun to do something about that. So what do you do on New Year's Eve? You spend time with friends and family, you party, you drink champagne, you eat oliebollen, which I realized that is a very, very Dutch thing, so you probably have no idea what it means. I have to look this one up for you. Okay, so an oliebol, what we eat every New Year's Eve, is translated to a deep fried raisin bun. Doesn't that sound delicious? So probably everywhere around the world, everyone has got their own tradition at New Year's Eve. But what I picked out of it, what I want to be painting with you, is fireworks. So we are going to paint fireworks because it's very colorful, and I thought this would be really fun and easy exercise also for beginning watercolor artists, and a way to get a lot of practice with your brush strokes and with amazing results. So I can't wait to begin. Let's go! Alright, these are the materials that you need if you want to follow along. First of all, watercolor paper. It doesn't need to be expensive, but you need to look at the weight of the paper. It needs to be 300 grams, and then you're good to go. For one exercise, I also used black watercolor paper. No worries if you don't have it, you can easily follow along on white watercolor paper. I just thought that with fireworks as a subject, the black watercolor paper would be really cool, so I'm just going to show you. You can use all kinds of watercolor paint as you like. I chose colorful colors because fireworks are very colorful. So yellows, reds, pinks, purples, blues and greens. I did not paint with the browns. I did not really think that would fit. I also painted with metallic paint because I thought it would look really cool with the fireworks. Also, no worries if you don't have it, I just would really love to show you. You're also going to need 2 jars with clean water. And the brushes that I've used are 2 round brushes, one size 14 and one size 8. You are going to need some old rags and paper towels to clean off your brush. And I used a bottle with water to spray. It's easy to wet your paint. And you're also going to need some washi or masking tape. Alright, let's start with the first exercise. I'm going to use the round brush size 8. And before I begin, I'm going to wet my paint with the water bottle. It's easy, you just spray on top of all the paint and then the paint is already wet. So it's just a way to make it easier for you to start painting. So this first exercise is going to be very easy. I'm going to start by painting some dots in the middle of the firework ball, the firework flower, and then around it I'm going to be adding some stripes, some strokes. So you're going to practice your brush strokes, and it's very repetitive. You're just making smaller strokes, bigger strokes. You're going to be using only the tip of your brush, or you're going to be using the entire brush. It's a very playful exercise, and all you need to keep in mind is that you're going to paint like this circle, only consisting of dots and strokes. Now I'm going to speed up the video. Just follow along, and if you feel like you want to pause the video, that's all right. When I painted the first layer, I started with yellow, and now when the paint is still wet, I am dropping in some orange and red, and this really gives it more depth. And after finishing the first firework bloom, I'm going to paint a second, and don't worry if your paint is touching the firework bloom that we already painted on the left. It's alright if the paint is going to blend. And for the second firework bloom, I started out with some purple, added in some blues, and now I'm going to paint a red firework bloom. This time I didn't start with the dots in the middle, and I'm also experimenting with my strokes. I am using smaller strokes. And when there's fireworks, they go up in the air, so I am painting some larger strokes at the bottom and also a few on the sides and on the top, just to give it that motion of fireworks shooting up in the air. And there's this space I want to fill, and this time I decided to go for dots instead of strokes. And it's just giving a really cool effect of the fireworks. Again, if you're following along, of course this is going way too fast, just pause the video from time to time. I just want to show you several exercises that we can do. Now, when you've finished off all the shapes, as a final touch, it's really cool to add some watercolor drops. For this, you make your paint really wet, so make sure you have a lot of paint water on your brush. And then with your finger, you're going to splash all the drops on the paper. Doesn't matter if there are some big splashes. And when you're done, it's time to let it dry. When the painting is dry, you can add another layer if you'd like. I chose to add another layer with the metallic paint, just to give it a nice shimmering and shiny effect. So I chose to pick some colors that matches the watercolor blooms that I've already painted. So the first one, I added some purple and some red. And I also picked gold for a lot of other watercolor blooms. I really like the gold. I add it often to paintings. And just wait and see when this paint has dried. Then the effect is really awesome. Speeding it up again, just adding some gold on the layers underneath. So the painting is dry, and I'm going to write down my signature, and then I'm going to show you the really cool effect of the metallic paint. Here, as you can see when I'm moving it in the light, that the metallic paint is really all shimmery and shiny. So I'm really loving this for a watercolor fireworks painting. And this is the first exercise. It's done. So for the second exercise, we are going to basically do the same thing, but I'm going to make loose shapes. Perhaps we're doing this not in the correct order. The first exercise was a composition, and now I don't want the fireworks to touch each other, and I want to experiment more with types of fireworks. So, like the shapes. If you want some inspiration, you can look up some photos of fireworks and see that you've got some round balls and you've got some more flat you know, balls that are round on the top but flat on the bottom. You've got all kinds of shapes, but the ascension of fireworks are always the same. They start somewhere at the core and then they burst out in some kind of beautiful shape and with beautiful colors. So I'm going to speed it up a little bit more, and if you're following along and it's going too fast, please just pause the video. As I said, I'm going to create several firework pieces and trying to paint different kind of shapes. So the first one has got some bigger dots in the center, very playful strokes, and the second one has got smaller dots in the center, and I'm more forming the shape of the strokes. So I'm painting the shape and filling it in. And just like before, when the paint is still wet, I always love to add another color into the paint. It really makes it really pretty when it's drying. Alright, so another firework bloom. This time I want to use only dots, and I love to add some smaller dots around the edges to have a really firework effect. Adding some more colors and going to paint another one. This time I'm not going to paint dots in the middle, just going for some strokes. This really is such a fun exercise when you're a beginner. It's playing with your brush and just trying out some strokes. You can't go wrong. I think most important, if you want to be consistent in painting your firework bloom, that you're going to pick a kind of brush stroke and repeat it for the entire bloom. And of course, you can make them small or big or longer, that doesn't matter. But consistency in the shape that you're painting within your firework bloom, that's what is making a really nice firework bloom. Alright, so now I'm going to paint two shapes, really fast brush strokes, not really thinking, so really fast. And I'm going to let those dry, and then when it's dried, I want to go over it with some more strokes. And now this one is really, really loose. I painted dots very loosely, really wet, so you see that the paint is blending. And just like before, I'm painting some strokes and some stars for that firework effect. And now it's time to let this dry. So now that the first layer has dried, I'm going to add some more paint on top of a few of the firework blooms, especially those two, the red and the yellow in the bottom. I want to have multiple colors in there. So now I'm adding the blue, and just note that if I would have added the blue on top of the red when the red was still wet, then it would now be some kind of purple or even brown. So sometimes it's really fun to add a color into the paint when the paint is still wet, and sometimes you don't want that, so then you let the paint dry first. Alright, so I also would like to point out that in some of the firework blooms that we've painted, that we added in the extra colors, did you see how nicely they dried up? I'm really loving that effect. So as a finishing touch for this composition, I'm adding some dots in between, also with different kind of colors. And now for a really fun effect, if you have it, you can also paint with metallic paint. And as I did before, I'm just trying to match the color and paint on top of the layer I painted before. It's like the shimmering glaze you put on top of the watercolor. And when I've done this, I'm going to add some gold on top of all the yellows and other parts of this painting. Speeding it up a bit for the last part. Alright, in this third exercise, I am going to show you the effect of painting on black watercolor paper. So I'm going to do the same thing as we did before, only on black paper this time. So feel free to follow along if you have got black paper. It's awesome. Otherwise, you can paint on white paper and just have another really fun exercise. So I'm speeding up the process again. Starting out with regular watercolor, just to show you that you don't necessarily need metallic paint to paint on black paper. But as you can see, like the dark purple, it barely shows on the paper, but the bright orange, yellow and blue, you see it very, very well. So I'm painting all kinds of shapes just like I did before with the strokes and the dots. I paint very loosely and some bigger strokes. And this way, with all the colorful colors, I'm filling up the black paper sheet. So adding shapes with the metallic paint now. I'm really loving that gold on the black paper. Also trying out some other colors. Now I'm also adding some silver. I'm really loving this effect on the black paper. So, for this exercise, you're going to need some masking tape or washi tape. I don't have the tape I usually use, so I'm trying it with this thicker masking tape. And, well, because it's also white like my paper, I can't really show you very well. So let me try to, let me show you like this. I am blocking off buildings. That's the effect that I'm going for. So harsh, square shapes I am cutting out with the washi tape so that when we're going to paint, it leaves the crisp hard lines that's supposed to be the edges of the buildings. I'm painting with the bigger round brush, the size 14. And what we're going to do is pick a color. I am going for dark blue, and we're going to paint in these shapes. So I like to have my brush kind of wet, but not too too wet. I don't want to immediately soak my watercolor paper. So this is going to be like the bottom of our city view, and you see like the skyscrapers are already shaping. So I like to add some layers, some darker and light blue. And this is a very, very playful part. So I suggest you just play around and have some fun. I also like to add in some color at the bottom, and adding red to blue is a very, very brave. Still, I like to go for this look. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can also choose other colors, but I just like to show you the effect of blending in some colors. So after we have let the paint dry, I see there's still some paint on my washi tape, so I need to be very careful in removing it. So this is part of removing the washi tape and hopefully see the crisp lines of the buildings. Now, as I was using really, really thick paint, I am not too happy with the skyscrapers that I've painted. I really, really needed or wanted to paint more of them. So I'm going to do that with my brush now. So if your your city skyline is looking really good, then you don't need to do this part. And if you like to, you can also follow along and add some buildings. So it's like loosely painting all kinds of squares and other shapes. Speeding it up again. So I'm also adding some details on top of the buildings. So you probably are wondering, why are we painting a city skyline? I thought we were painting fireworks. So yes, it's all about fireworks, but I thought it would be another fun composition to try out. So let's start with the fireworks. We're doing the same exercise again, painting firework blooms. Started out with only yellow at this point. I also am painting some stripes from the watercolor firework bloom to the city, so it really looks like it's flowing up into the air. And what I also like is to paint a few really light watercolor circles, and also drop in some paint or water in there to create those watercolor blooms. And that's already enough to be a firework bloom. So also adding a few more with another color, and I'm painting this very loosely. And another circle, and also trying to create those watercolor blooms by adding in drops of color. So there's a purple one with some smaller strokes and some bigger ones around the edges. This is becoming a really playful composition. So yes, I suggest follow along and experiment and have some fun. So what I also like to do is add some dots around the edges of the firework blooms. It really gives it this firework sparkle. Alright, so now the first layer has dried. I'm going to add some final touches with the metallic paint. So no worries if you don't have it, but if you have, this is what you can do. Also, you might have some metallic markers, like a gold marker, and you could try and do the same, because it really has a nice effect to add some metallic touches to these paintings. Alright, so I want to do one more exercise with you, because while I was painting these fireworks, there was one thing that I thought would be a very nice idea, and that is start with painting some circles, like the background, the back glow of the firework bloom. So first we're going to paint some very light colored circles on the paper in the composition where you want to have your firework blooms. And then we're going to let this dry. Now that the circles have dried, we are going to add our firework blooms just like we've been practicing before. Only this time I think it will look even better because we've painted the background. Well, let's get going and see the end result. So now that this layer has dried, I'm going to add some final details with the metallic paint. So I really hope that you enjoyed watching this video and that you were able to follow along. I really had a lot of fun painting these fireworks, and I think it is a great exercise for when you're a beginner with painting with watercolors, because you really had to practice a lot of the brush strokes. It is this exercise really was something that you can experiment with, try out all kinds of things, and you basically can't go wrong. So when you did follow along, I would really love to see your results. You can share them with me via direct message, or you can share them on social media. So if you share it on social media, I would love it if you tag me at Sandra Art Studio and use the hashtag #CreateWithSandras. So thanks again so much for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and follow me to see when new videos are coming up. So this was my first inspirational video, and I chose fireworks because it's almost a new year. 2023 is coming up, and I believe it's going to be an amazing year. So it's going to be a year filled with creative content, and I'm going to be doing a whole lot of fun things on this channel. So yes, I just want to say all the best for 2023.